Welcome to Mayday. I'm your host, Trevor May. It is Wednesday, January 28th. We are live on Foul Territory over on YouTube, and I'm Trevor May on Twitch. I want to welcome everyone in. We got a jam-packed show for you today. Well, as jam-packed as a show can be when very little baseball stuff happens. But as you guys all know, we are in the calm before the spring training storm, as most teams report in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So we are going to be seeing a quick ramp up very quickly of a lot of guys signing, probably, and possibly some narratives happening around guys signing in spring training, which happen every year. But as we know, a lot of the big guys are off the board, and the teams as they stand, we can see a pretty good picture going into this 2026 Major League Baseball season. Today is a little bit special. I am going to have the chat open over there on Foul Territory. So if you guys are asking questions or there's super chats in the chat, I might be able to get to them, something that I haven't been able to do in my live Mayday over on the channel so far. So without further ado, though, we're going to hop right into it. We got some news. We got some the rumor mill going around, but we also have our main story that we start with every single time, and this time it is something. It's something. The rundown is turned off for some reason. Alrighty, let's see if we can get this thing to turn on. I don't know what's happening right now. I don't know why nothing is showing up. This is frustrating me now. There it is. Really? All right, technical difficulties. I'll be right back. Huh? Well, for some reason, my graphics aren't showing up. And I couldn't tell you why that is. This has never happened before, but it is currently happening, and I can't, for the love of me, figure out why this is. Okay, great. So awkward. Yeah, this should be showing, and it isn't. Nothing is showing. So maybe I just restart OBS. All right, let's try this again. Welcome back to Mayday. I'm your host, Trevor May. It is January 28th. I'm so sorry about the technical difficulties. We had a cable just fail, and I had to swap it out and check to see which one failed. But we got it. It didn't take too long, thank God. So we are here, and we're gonna be doing our best to get this show as smoothly as possible from this point on. So I apologize for the delay, but we are back. We are back, and we are ready to go. Sounds like we're getting double audio for some reason. All right, we are back. We are ready to go. Let's get it. Hopping right into our first story of the day. This has been a conversation that has been happening a lot lately since the New York Mets had a bunch of reporting around clubhouse woes and possible disconnection amongst the stars, specifically the two guys right here, pictured, to talk a little bit about what was going on and how that can affect a winning season, or in their case, a catastrophic collapse at the end, right? It was a clubhouse that I spent 2 years in, and it is not unique in the way that it operates, though. There's some pretty universal ways, things that you need in the clubhouse in order to be successful. So not only was this reported quite a bit, but there was also some reporting in the last couple of weeks, especially around the Kyle Tucker signing with the Dodgers, with a anonymous Cubs executive talking about that he might have seemed disengaged, and so he's not, a gamer, the guy that's going to go into the trenches and be there for his team. He looks at his phone a lot. He seems very, not so rah rah. I'm here. Let's go win games, and that could be true, could be not true. Those guys do exist, the guys that are disengaged, but also, unless you watch someone all the time, it's hard to distinguish what type of player they are. But this got me thinking. There's been a lot. There was even a clip recently that I saw of a gentleman named, I have it written right here. Where is it? Chuck Klosterman on Pablo Torre's show, Finding Out Pablo Torre. He is an author, and he was basically asking the question, why has it become normal for professional athletes, and he was using the NBA as an example, to not give their all during the regular season and save it for the playoffs or save it for the midseason tournament, and no one tries in the All-Star game. Why has it become normal to not give everything you got? And so what I'm seeing is just a lot of kind of scrutiny on how the clubhouse is working and what the players are doing when they are not playing, and then how maybe that affects the play on the court. So it got me thinking. There's a bunch of things that I think winning clubhouses do, or at least winning teams have going in their clubhouse. And we've talked about these things in bits and pieces. We've hit one or two or three or four here and there, but I finally brought it all together, 7 main points, the 7 things that all winning clubhouses do, especially in the major leagues, that are pretty consistent across the board. Now, you don't need to have every single one of these elements always, all the time. It ebbs and flows, right? And not every team who's ever won a World Series has them all either. However, if you do have all 7 of these things, it genuinely leads to a little bit better success out there on the field. So let's talk through these things one point after another. Just so you know, by the way, I did do a deep dive on the Mets clubhouse thing and my experience in that clubhouse over on the Substack. It is our first bonus video for paid subscribers. So if you are interested, IamTrevorMay.com. We'll talk about that again a little bit in the future, but just wanted to let you know that's out there. Okay, point number 1 that every team that has in their clubhouse, every winning clubhouse has, that is, not everyone's best friends, though it is nice they are. So this is one thing that just exists, okay? There are 26 guys on a roster. There are anywhere from 4 to 1,000 coaches and analytics people and executives, people coming in and out, right? Chefs, clubhouse attendants, trainers, all kinds of people. And just like any other job, when you have about 50 to 70 people in and out of a place, not everyone is going to be everyone else's best friend. That is just not something that you can think that is automatically going to happen. There's people from all kinds of places, and not all personalities get along. That said, I'd say the vast majority of these situations are everyone likes each other. That is probably the bulk. We're like, yeah, man, what's up? We all have baseball in common. Sometimes just having one major thing in common is enough to have a good rapport, to be okay being in each other's presence for half of your life for at least 6 months a year, okay? There is an element of that. It's really important. And then there are the guys who love each other. They're best buddies, right? You get these groups. These are rarer, right? That everyone is that way. But by all accounts, the teams that were in the World Series last year had that. We heard a lot of comments from Ernie Clement at the end that clubhouse was amazing to be in Toronto, that is, for the Blue Jays. And they didn't want to leave the clubhouse after, because obviously they were all kind of grieving their loss together, but also they just like being together. And when you're together this much and you have that, sometimes you can do special things you're not supposed to do, right? They were not, I'm not gonna say they were written off, but they were not expected to go to the World Series. And a lot of that comes from this ability, this love tier. Like, you really enjoy being, you're really good friends. You go out of your way to spend time together off the field as well. That is ideal. But the like is most of it, vast majority of it, right? And then there's it's fine. It's fine, it's bearable, but like, I'm not inviting anybody to dinner, or I'm not going to dinner with anybody. You want that to be a smaller part, but that is sometimes what can happen. And where it really falls apart is if the guys who are kind of fine, or even, God forbid, they don't like each other, because there's a couple guys, just like any other workplace, there's a couple people that maybe you prefer not to be around, but at least the clubhouse and the training room, you can like find a way to like coexist and just like not really cross paths that much if you really need to. And usually you can count those guys on one hand, usually less than 3 fingers, usually. It's just like anywhere else. It's not as common as you think it is. Yes, I can probably count the guys that I disliked on my teams, and less than 5 in my whole career. So that is usually not as big of a problem as it's made out to be. It's the fine category that sometimes can get muddy, and especially if you guys are just like okay with each other, but you're the 2 leaders on the team. That's where it can get exponentially. It can seem much worse than it is, and in these guys' case, that might have been it. I'm not going to talk about the details there. I did that over Substack, but like, that is what's been reported. So you don't have to be friends to win, but it is sure nice if you are. And if you all find that you like to be together, all 26 of you like to be in that room a lot, you're gonna establish yourselves as friends, and you're also gonna work through your disputes even easier, right? There's no resentment. If you're not comfortable with a person, you're not gonna go up to them and be honest with them right away. You're gonna hold that in, and then that's gonna fester for 3 months, and then as soon as something breaks or something goes bad, then it starts to get rough. And if you don't like where you are, it's not going to go as well as it could have if you do like where you are. Trevor Plouffe made a great comment on his show, Baseball Today. He said, just think about it this way. How miserable would it be if you had to hang out, if you were around people you didn't like and have to see them naked all the time? Like, that's a great point. It's an intimate place. And liking who you're around is a big part of it, but not necessarily. It's overcomable, if that makes sense. This isn't always true, but it definitely helps. Point 2. Working hard is different than looking like you're working hard. So this comes down to trust, okay? This is something that I don't think a lot of people know, and it's hard not to make assumptions based on snapshots of what you see somebody doing at any given time, right? There is this thing, not just in baseball, in sports, that everyone needs to give the impression that they are working just as hard or harder than everybody else. This is growing up reading the A-Rod and the Michael Jordan quotes and the Tiger Woods quotes, just like, it's every day, get 1% better every day. John Wooden, right? It's that all the time, which is good. That's a good thing. But what it becomes is you start to judge those that you deem aren't doing the same amount of work that you're doing. So what is important, the best clubhouses can look around and trust their teammates that if we see them sitting and just like looking at their phones or whatever, that they're doing that because they have finished their work. They're doing it to rest. They're doing what they should be doing right now. And that trust is where it matters. Not necessarily the thing. Just you don't want everyone around just eye washing. We always do this. Just eye drops in the eyes. You're clearing out your eyes. They're trying to, hey, look at what I'm doing. Eye wash. You're scrubbing people's eyes with how hard you work. Things have a purpose, and as you get to the major leagues, there's 62 games, 190 including spring training, like almost 210 including all the way to the World Series if you get there. You played over 200 games. If we're out here expecting everyone to work and do the same thing at the same level, that you need to be policed, that you need to be babied, and made sure we got to make sure you're doing your work because you're not a professional. That is when the best teams don't do that. They don't have to do that. So the clubhouse that is able to look over and see if a guy looks like he's not working hard, to say, I don't know, a front office executive, The guys in the clubhouse know that they're around that person, know that that guy's doing the right amount of work for him, and his success out on the field proves it. And you have to trust that and not judge it. And that's hard to do. It's really, really hard to do, especially when the guys are young, which we'll get to in a moment. So I'm talking about the Tucker thing. We don't know. Some people are just super laid back. Some people don't have to do as much as other people. I had to lay on a foam roller for 2 hours. Not everyone else on the team had to lay on foam rollers for 2 hours. So I didn't blame them when I didn't see anyone else sitting on a foam roller for 2 hours, because I'm like, you have to do that or you're not going to be good. That's stupid. You got to be able to make those decisions, and the staff that be, sometimes it's a staff problem too, where they're trying to protect their job, and they're trying to make you do a bunch of stuff so that they can report that you're doing a bunch of stuff, and it doesn't actually help you get any better. Players need to do that amongst themselves, and you have to trust your teammates that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Sometimes that goes to the wayside, especially when things aren't going well. It's hard to stomach losing and then watching someone playing video games or something during the work day, even if they have a half an hour break. You know what I mean? Number 3, you cannot force it. You can't force your clubhouse to be loose. You can't force your group of guys to be best buddies. You can't force people to like each other, right? You can help put yourself in a position to like each other. You can help get guys together that have similar interests outside the field, and maybe they become buddies, or maybe they're similar personalities and they'll like each other. But you can't force it. I've played on teams, and this is major leagues too, where, and a lot of times this was coming from the coaches or the staff. They were like, hey guys, we're gonna have a mandatory team dinner. And like in spring training, everyone's like, dude, we have families. Like we don't need to go. We are together all the time. We let the scene develop. We don't have to go have this like rah, we all have each other's backs, like dinner, and then half the guys like, I'm being forced to come here. This is inconvenient for me right now. It does the opposite. It feels like you're at school, and it's a job. It's not school. Like there's no defined hours. Like outside of work hours, you should be able to do what you want. And it should be players putting these stuff together, not the staff. And I've been on a couple, and that's pretty much backfired every single time I've been on it. It just hasn't produced like results on the field. Yeah, sure, maybe we hung out and we liked being around each other a little bit, but like, we don't need an excuse to do that. We're adults. We can invite each other to things, and we can go out to dinner together, and we can do things we like to do together. We can do that. We can do it ourselves. You don't need to make it happen. So sometimes this stuff gets forced. Sometimes you lose a game and somebody's like, yeah, guys, it's okay. And they put on some like super upbeat music, and you're like, we don't want to listen to this. Like this feels forced. And there's a fine line between forcing it and letting things, like guys picking each other up in an authentic way, and things that feel like they're inauthentic. And that I think is the difference between really, really great coaching and really, really great teammates. And not just like letting things happen naturally, and the guys who have the power in the clubhouse, the older guys, initiating a lot of this stuff in small groups and then expanding those groups. Like the older guy in the bullpen takes the bullpen out, or takes the rookies out, or goes and buys them a suit. That's how it used to be, but now it's like goes and buys them an Adidas tracksuit or a bag or something. Like that's a way that you build camaraderie. That stuff feels good. That feels like a good. It's like an unwritten rule that you do. That type of stuff works. You can't force your team to come together. You have to have them do it and encourage them to do it, right? Number 4, leadership isn't just one guy, okay? You don't just have one clubhouse leader. You have a bunch of different kinds of leaders, kind of like the hierarchy in like the military or in any other sort of organization in that way. Like you have leaders of small groups, then you have leaders of the bigger group, then you have the couple leaders of the entire group, and all of them work together and feel comfortable communicating with each other. So it's not all on the backs of the guys who are like the leaders to monitor everyone and make sure everything's going. So there are several kinds of leaders, and here's how it kind of lays out for me. The clubhouse is with all of these things covered pretty well, where there's someone, if you have a grievance or you have a question and you're a young guy and you're afraid to get flamed out in front of everybody. Like, if you have somebody you can go to and ask the question and not worry about it, that's great to have. And the more leadership there is, the better. So you have your vocal leaders, right? The one thing that I appreciated playing with Marcus Stroman was he was not afraid to say what everyone in the clubhouse is thinking sometimes when we're maybe doing something that we feel is like pointless, or we're maybe not all on the same page on something, and he had no problem just kind of coming out and kind of breaking the ice. And I always appreciated that of him. And he remains that way to this day. Like, that is one of his skills. He's very good at just saying the thing that everyone else is thinking out loud and really getting the ball rolling on fixing it. And so that was kind of vocal leadership. But a guy who was like very clearly on purpose a vocal leader, Torrey Hunter. In his final year, I played with him in 2015 in Minnesota. He knew it was his last year, and he took it upon himself to basically give all the knowledge and his competitive spirit and lead through example, but also just say, like, guys, this is what we're doing, and this is how it is, and you're gonna run into situations where this happens and this. He just said it. He had no problem saying it. He was not a shy guy, and I always appreciated that out of him. I was envious of it. A lot of us were. But then you have your quiet leaders, guys who go along their day and prove it through their actions and their consistency and their results. Joe Mauer, quiet dude, super quiet, sat in his corner. He'd talk, like, it's not like he'd never said anything, but like, he didn't stand up in front of a room and be like, rah, rah, guys, let's figure this thing out. He would just be like, plug away, like, hyper consistent. You got to have the vocal, fiery guy, and then you got to have the quiet lead through example guy. And Joe Mauer was that guy, Hall of Famer. Having him and Torrey in the same year, that was the year we turned it around for a while, almost made the playoffs. Something we were not expected to do that year. So you got to have your quiet leaders as well, and usually that's through being in the weight room, being in the training room, make sure they take care of all their stuff, and then they go out and they're playing really well. And if you have a guy play really well, he doesn't need to be vocal. He's leading out on the field. You can get both things. Those are necessary. You have to have those. Then you have to have your unexpected performance leaders. You have to have a guy that is playing his best. And a lot of times it's someone you're not super expecting, right? Like someone you're not really expecting to be like the best hitter on your team. Like one guy, a prime example of this, 2019, a Twins team I was on, won 101 games. That year, we had a bunch of guys go off. Two guys who kind of led on the field a little bit more than we had anticipated them because they were younger. Mitch Garver and Eddie Rosario. Two guys had monster years. They were good players. We knew they could hit, but we didn't know they could hit like that. And they set the tone. They were cooking. We trusted them to come up big in situations, and they did. And so they led through their performance, but they didn't need to say anything. They didn't even need to be quiet or loud. They didn't need to be one of the veteran guys. They just kind of led on the field. You got to have guys overperforming on the field. Obviously, that makes sense, but that also helps in the clubhouse. Okay, you have someone you can look to, like in a big spot, we need this to happen. We have someone that we can count on to get the job done in the right situation. So that's important. And then you got to have your vibes leaders. One of the best vibes leaders I've ever had, Tommy Hunter. He extended his career with the Mets just because he was an incredible person to have around the clubhouse because one, he keeps it light. Two, he had a ton of experience and kind of didn't take himself too seriously, didn't take everything too seriously. And everyone was comfortable going and having a vulnerable conversation with him, and he was available for it. And he knew his role, and he loved it, and he loved being there every day. So if you get a guy who just loves being there, I played with Shane Robinson. He was that for the 2019 Twins, maybe it was the 17 Twins. One of the years we had Shane Robinson, he was that guy. Mike Pelfrey was always that guy with the Twins. He was always vibes. No matter how he was playing, he was the same all the time. You have to have one guy that is willing to keep it light and be an idiot. You got to have one idiot that likes being an idiot. Sorry, Tommy, but you know what you are. You know what you did. And then the last thing, you got squad leaders. So this is different. The bullpen has a leader. The starting pitchers has a leader. The outfield has a leader. The infield has a leader. The catchers have a leader, right? If there's three of them. Or the catchers are kind of part of the pitchers a little bit. But like on behalf of that group, to the big leaders. So we kind of had that hierarchy. We had that And the Mets in 2022, when we won 101 games. Max Scherzer pitchers, Francisco Lindor hitters, right? Ottavino was the bullpen. The infield was Lindor. Like, we had this everywhere. And Nimmo was the outfielders. Like, we had these guys who were the vocal, the representatives of each group. That exists as well. If you have a good version of that as well, then you feel like you're heard and you're part of the team, even if you're just some reliever that no one actually listens to if they speak. So it's good to have that as well. All of this stuff needs to be clearly defined, not on paper, just everyone understands who speaks for who, and then you can have your conversation. So if there's ever disputes, they get handled. That's at the end of the day, that is what you need. And sometimes this stuff breaks down because people don't like each other as much and they don't want to talk to each other as much, and therefore the communication suffers. And that's what happens when clubhouses usually fall apart. Number 5, you need young talent to both earn their stripes and be comfortable. So you've probably heard a lot about getting hazed or hazing rookies, right? That has changed a lot over the years. It's really important that it has changed over the years because it was pretty crazy at some point. Like, there was a lot of stuff happening, a lot of stuff getting lit on fire, people just stealing people's personal property. It gets worse and worse and worse. Stuff that I'm not going to talk about. Actually, to be honest, I haven't even seen. It kind of was going out of the way or to the wayside when I came into the league. Unfortunately, I got just the normal run-of-the-mill stuff. But people have talked about it a lot in the past, and things have changed a little bit. But there is also such thing as someone coming up with very little experience that acts like they have a lot of experience, and they just don't know about some of the things they need to know about before they get up. So there is a happy medium. Okay, there is a situation where you are a young guy and you are asked to do something that might be embarrassing for you. Okay, and that's on purpose because you're being tested. If you commit to it just for a short amount of time, prime example of this, everyone team does it. You go to the front of the bus when you're driving, plane lands, you're going to the hotel. You're on between the plane and the hotel when you're going into an away city. Usually is when this happens. You're called to the front to entertain your teammates, okay? So you get to choose a song, or they choose a song for you, and then you have to sing it, and you have to give it your all. It's about effort. It's not about quality. It's about effort, okay? If you commit to 1 minute of singing your heart out, that could be a lasting acceptance into the team immediately. A guy who did this too well, and you know what he did? He did the best Macarena I have ever seen. He knew every word. No one knows every word. He knew every word, and unfortunately he had to do it all of the time after that, but immediately the team laughed, they loved it. He's endeared to the team for the rest of forever, and he became a young guy who was comfortable, but he had a little bit of hazing. He earned his spot in the in-group. He earned his spot on the team with something that simple. Doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes rookies, and I've seen it, they think it's too embarrassing for them to do, and they're too cool to do it. And you know what that does? That makes the rest of the team not respect it very much, and it becomes a problem, and sometimes it's a problem for a long time. Something that stupid can be. I want to give you another good example because it's actually really funny to watch it, and a lot of you guys, we've talked about it on this show quite a bit, and a lot of you guys might have been seeing it on the internet. But Drew Gilbert and Matt Chapman. So what I know, this is my theory. So caveat, allegedly, it's just a theory I'm projecting here. Matt Chapman has been known as a leader. He is one of the vocal leaders in a clubhouse. He's one of the let's go boys type of guys. I played with the A's. A lot of the A's guys said that about him, which is awesome. He's a vocal leader. You need that. And so usually the vocal leaders are the guys who leads getting the rookies acclimated and putting them through their test. And so what my theory is, Drew Gilbert understood the assignment so well, and he went so hard to the point where Matt Chapman's like, okay, man. So now it's so funny. Now whenever I see them interacting on a video or in a picture, it's almost as if Matt Chapman is the uncomfortable one and Drew Gilbert is the comfortable one. But one thing is very clear, they're buddies, and Drew Gilbert is part of that group because he committed. He knew what he needed to do. He committed to being a vibes guy, and he got locked in. So your young guys, if you want them to perform, they need to feel comfortable, but the young guys, you also need to know that you're going to get tested, and all you have to do is put an effort to pass that test. And if you do it, then it's all gravy, baby. And I've been on teams that do that well, and I've been on other teams where it had a handful of guys that just did not want to participate, and it hurt us. It really hurt the clubhouse vibes. All right, two last quick ones here. This goes without saying, but you got to have the same big goals. Now, your goals are all going to differ, right? You got your own performance goals. You got your own, like, want to stay healthy. You have all your personal goals. Those are the majority of the goals. But you all have to want to do the same thing as a group. You all need to want to win the division. Half the team can't be like, I'm good if we take second, we barely squeeze in the playoffs, and half of them be like, to get to the World Series, because it's an extra 5 weeks of baseball. I think fans at home, there's a lot of assumptions that, like, oh, obviously you want to just keep going. And yeah, I would say that there's a 90% of it is that. But there's this 10% in your head where you're like, okay, we can do this. 40 more games. Whew, we can do it. Or 20 more games. We can get there. It's daunting. It's like you got to find energy somewhere else. But if you're all committed to it, that's easier. And that could be the difference between going really deep and being eliminated in the first round. So you all have to be pushing or pulling in the same direction for real. It has to be the number one goal that you've been walking through, and every guy in the clubhouse has to be doing that. You have to be hyper-focused on it. You have to. And no one says stuff like explicitly, but you can tell over the year that some guys, they just want to go home. They're tired and they want to go home. And if your best players feel like that way and there's something missing in the playoffs, it's happened. It's a real thing. I don't know what else to tell you. And finally, number 7, all of the things I've said before, you must police yourself. Your manager can't have to come into the clubhouse every 2 weeks and give you a rah-rah speech and flip a table. That can't happen. Those teams do not win consistently. They don't. You don't have to get motivation for anywhere. You're self-motivated. Where if you have an issue, your leaders can handle it, or you can handle it amongst you and the person you have a problem with. That's the way that it works. So you must be able to police yourselves. If the clubhouse cannot police themselves, if the players don't feel like they're in control of their music and any disputes going on, and can be taken care of so that it doesn't affect the play on the field, if that is not what's happening, there is going to be an issue, and it is going to show up out there, and it does every time. So you have to be able to police yourselves, and everyone has to buy into being policed. If you don't think that you have to listen to your teammates, you're probably the problem. So that at the end of the day, that's what you need to do. Now, it can get dicey if maybe the guys that should be the ones leading the charge on the policing need to be policed. If you, for example, if Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto, which I don't know what exactly that dispute was supposed to look like, but when you have two guys that are being paid over $1 billion combined, sometimes everyone else in the clubhouse is like, dude, I can't say anything. What am I going to say? And when you get stuck in that weird limbo, that can fester for a while, and it just kind of never gets addressed because nobody feels comfortable addressing it. And if that happens, you're kind of screwed. So it's about policing yourselves. You got to take care of it that way. That is what every winning clubhouse. Yeah, a lot of that stuff needs to exist. If you can hit every one of those, though, do every one of those well, that is when you get the teams like the Dodgers, Phillies are always, it's very clear that clubhouse is a great one to be in. The Braves, for a while, I know they've struggled the last couple of years, but now they're old, guys are getting older. It's you gotta have leadership in that way. It's really important, and it's gonna be interesting with the Mets specifically. They have now changed that course so much that it's gonna be interesting to see how the leadership kind of lays out or spreads out, how that settles in. It's going to be, we'll all be watching, I guess, and see what kind of a difference it makes. So that is Major League Clubhouses. Hope you enjoyed it. Okay, moving forward. No ad today, but we do have one piece of housekeeping. We now are doing 2 or more bonus videos a month over on the Substack at IamTrevorMay.com. It is our Mayday Substack. If you sign up for free With your email, you get a weekly newsletter with everything we've been making and little offers we're going to be doing over the summer for like discounts on merch and just like fun little games and stuff. So it's like it's a good time. I do a bunch of little side projects and things too, and I keep you updated there. So we enjoy it. Or if you'd like to support the channel, my channel, and all the content we make here for the show and everything else that I do as a creator, you can subscribe for $5 a month or $50 for a year, and you get the 2+ bonus videos per month, plus discounts on said merch, and a bunch of other bonus content that is coming in the future as well. So I just put up the one about the Mets clubhouse and kind of went in depth about everything that's been reported. It was a fun video to make. It's about 20 minutes. You can check it out right now if you're interested over at imtrevor.com or use this little QR code. Thanks. Okay, let's get in the news. Let's go news. There's been news, not a ton of news, but there's been news. Okay, let's hop right into it. First piece of news. I thought you guys would find this fascinating because I did. These two gentlemen, Carlos Correa and Jose Altuve, were denied insurance to compete in the World Baseball Classic. Now you may be wondering, what does that mean? What do you mean insurance? Where does insurance come from? So Jose Altuve and Carlos Correa will not play in the World Baseball Classic because no one will insure them because of their prior injury history. So here's the quotes from the two guys, and I'll tell you a little bit about what insurance means in this context, okay? $31 million salary. Now that is a very high salary. Sometimes that comes into play, but the quote goes as follows. Correa says, "That's too big of a risk to take. You play with no insurance." So instead of going and playing and just chancing it, he's decided not to. So at the end of the day, you can still go without insurance, but you can't. Anyway, continuing the quote. "I'm definitely upset because I've been preparing really hard this offseason to get better this year and be ready early so I can be ready for the WBC. You know, he would be playing for Team Puerto Rico. A lot of pride, especially the Puerto Ricans have spoken a lot about how much pride they have in their team and their country and able to represent them in the WBC. And WBC, by all accounts, is so much fun to play in. Altuve said, "I signed the paper that I'm willing to go and play like I did in the last two WBCs. It's always an honor to represent my country. I played in the last one and the one before, and I'm trying to do it this one. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but it seems like this year it's not up to me." Now those were interesting words to use. So let's keep that in the back pocket. It seems like he's probably being maybe encouraged to forego the WBC this year. We'll see if he ends up going or not. He looks like he's pushing back a little bit harder than Correa is, but he also has had some injuries recently, and he's getting a little bit older. So for clarity, the insurance is taken out. It's a policy that is taken out on the salary by the team, not the player, okay? So there's been this is pretty common, but I don't think it's been talked about enough. So basically the team can be reimbursed if the player misses significant time or reimbursed a percentage of their salary. So there's been a bunch of examples of this, right? And the policies they have different types of stipulations with sometimes really high premiums. So that's not why they're not always used. A prime example of this is actually, we've got to give a shout out to New York Mets because this was actually smart. They took out a policy on David Wright. In 2012, the Mets signed Wright to an 8-year, $138 million contract. Shortly after, Wright began suffering chronic injuries, spinal stenosis, which is still one of the most sad stories. I wish we would have gotten more of David Wright, which essentially ended his ability to play full season. So the Mets had a policy that allowed them to recoup 75% of the salary if you miss more than 60 consecutive days. Now, 60 might sound like a specific number. It is. The 60-day IL was the stipulation. He had to be on the 60-day IL in order to get the reimbursement. So if you remember back, if you are a Mets fan and you remember back, he was on the 60-day IL a lot, no matter what, really, which really stunk because it basically meant he's not coming back soon, and it was always like that. So the hope was really not there, but that was how they got the money returned. So because Wright was sidelined for nearly all of 16, 17, and 18, the insurance company reportedly reimbursed the Mets roughly $15 million per year, so about 75% of the annual salary. So because the policy only stayed active if Wright was on the 40-man roster and attempting to return, so stipulation was he has to be trying to come back. That's why they kept putting him on the 60-day. So like he couldn't retire or it would end, and the team would have to be on hook for the rest of the money. So that's why he can perpetually, like, he probably wasn't going to come back. That's why that happened a lot at the end of his career. It was for the insurance to be returned. Now, there's probably a pretty good chance that David knew all this and was like playing. He's like, yeah, whatever. Like, whatever we need to do. I don't like, it's effectively the same thing for me. Like, I like being around, you know, that's what it takes. That's what it takes. Because either way, he's going to get paid, right? So actually, I believe if he retired, he'd forego his contract. So he wanted to get paid, but he couldn't be sent home. So it was one of those things he had to kind of be in limbo here to get paid. So other examples of this, and we've talked about this, Prince Fielder with the Rangers. He had the neck injuries that actually were life-threatening, or at least paralysis-threatening. And so he was declared medically ineligible to play. And so that was actually part of his. And the insurance paid $9 million of his $24 million annual salary through 2020. So he got paid, they paid out almost $40 million of that salary to the team because he like had to not play. He couldn't play anymore. And that was actually built into the policy that he was declared medically ineligible. Albert Bell, same thing. 3 years left in his contract. They paid out about $27 million of the 39. And Jeff Bagwell had shoulder issues, ended his career in 2006. The Astros almost got the full price back because they had a short-term insurance policy. So these things are common. They exist. I believe Strasburg had part of his done too. These are really common to do, especially with like big contracts. But the problem is they're not as common as they could be because the premium could be 10% of that contract value every year. So if someone's being paid $20 million a year, in order to have an insurance policy on them, you'd have to pay the insurance company $2 million a year. So like, it's one of those things like, should we chance this? Because might cost us more money to insure it. So it's a weird situation. You know, insurance companies are everywhere, but and that's why these guys aren't playing. So let's go back to the Astros and talk a little bit about why they weren't insured. Altuve fractured his right thumb, being hit by a pitch last time. So that was one big one. He literally got hurt last time. So that makes sense to be denied. They're like, you got hurt last time and we had to pay out. So why would we don't want to pay out. We're an insurance company. We like just getting money to do nothing. That's why we exist. And so we're not going to insure you if we actually have to protect you, which is one. Really, if you really look at it, it's completely logical that his history with injuries would give pause to anyone looking to get an insurance policy for the WBC. Not just to name a few, he missed over a month in 2018 with a back injury. He was 60-day IL with a broken rib in 19, missed 2 months with plantar fasciitis in 24. If you remember, between 22 and 23, he nearly signed contracts with both the Giants and the Mets before they found issues with his right ankle. So he failed 2 physicals to get a massive contract and ended up going to the Twins, if you remember. So like back to the Twins. So like that's where this stuff is coming from. You're uninsured if you're insurable due to their injury history, the player's contract would not be guaranteed. So like you can't go out there and say you're not playing for the team you're on right now. If you get hurt, the team's like, hey, we're not going to let you go because then we get nothing for our investment. But if we can get insurance, that makes it more likely to respect your wishes to want to play. In the past, in 2023, for example, players who couldn't play were like Clayton Kershaw and Nathan Eovaldi because of their issues with injuries. Tyler O'Neill for Team Canada and Brusdar Graterol, Team Venezuela. Those 4 guys couldn't play because they couldn't get insured. A lot of people didn't really know that, probably. But like the teams basically said, we don't want you to go because our investment could get ruined. But now Kershaw's going back because he doesn't need to be insured because he is not employed by a team, which I think is awesome. So just something to realize. It's not widely reported, but that is how insurance works in baseball. Isn't that so interesting? Probably not. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's probably not super interesting, but I think it's interesting and, you know, it's my show. Okay, moving forward. J-Ram, Jose Ramirez, signs a 7-year, $175 million extension with the Cleveland Guardians, his 3rd with the same team. He is very clearly going to spend his entire career with them, a feat that simply does not happen anymore, especially in extensions. Now, the price of his contract is not quite 175 because he has, oh, you guessed it, deferments. Deferral of $10 million each year to be paid out in 10 installments every year after. So once it's over, he will be paid basically $1 million every, 5 weeks for the whole year for 10 years, which I think is cool. Or for 7 years, sorry. So 7 years paid out. So $10 million a year for 7 years after the contract expires, for a team-friendly deal, because for all intents and purposes, if he went onto the free agent market right now, he would be paid an astronomical amount of money. Like, what do you think Bregman got paid? Jose Ramirez is blowing Bregman's pay out of the water. He's getting paid $40 a year, right? But he doesn't want that. He wants to stay in the same place. It speaks to his character. He likes being there. He likes guys. He likes it just to be easy to understand. Now, he's 33 years old. This will take him to his 40-year-old year. He's a 7-time All-Star, 6 top 5 MVP finishes. What? He has a career 857 OPS with 285 home runs and 287 stolen bases. He's one of the best players, definitely one of the best players, if not the best player in Guardians/Indians history. But one of the from surefire Hall of Famer. I mean, probably pretty close to at this point already. I would say after this contract, 100% he is in. But no one does this anymore. And why people don't do this is because the money's just massive out there on the free agent market. We've talked about this a lot. This is a definite decision, his decision, okay? Nobody's advising him to do this. This is his decision. He fully understands how it works, and he wants to stay in somewhere normal, and he knows, and he very clearly doesn't have a super strong connection to how much money he has. It's plenty of money. For all intent, all everything I know about Mike Trout, same thing. He just did not care about the big money. It was mostly he felt a responsibility to the market, but it didn't really matter that much to him. So kudos to J-Ram for staying in the same place, and I can't wait to keep watching him wearing this uniform. Let's see if they can actually get this thing done with him on the team. So just something to keep in mind. This is possible, but the player has to want to do it, and you got to figure out how to do it if the player wants to do it. Harrison Bader signed. Harrison Bader just signed a 2-year, $20.5 million deal with the San Francisco Giants, who were desperate need for outfield help. He won a Gold Glove in 2021. He can now slot in as the everyday center fielder, possibly allowing Jung-Hoo Lee, who has a better arm but less range, to shift to right field. Interesting. Jung-Hoo Lee can run a little bit, but Bader takes much better routes. So that could be a huge upgrade for them out there. He has had very, very good years his last couple of years. So I think this is a quality bat to add to a team that kind of needed a little bit of shaking up. Now, who knows if they're done? I don't know what else they could do. Maybe there's a trade in there. I've been huge on anyone who can go grab Brendan Donovan. He's a good fit there too. That's been thrown out there. That's a cool thing I would like to see. But happy for Harrison Bader getting paid a little bit too, and he should fit right into that team really nicely. Freddie Peralta, who was just traded to the Mets in a pretty actually big trade with Brandon Sproat and was it Jet Williams? Yeah, Jet Williams moving on, which were two very highly touted prospects. I didn't think that David Stearns would go there, but he's trading with the boys, the Milwaukee Brewers. So Freddie Peralta is now a Met for the final year before he goes to free agency, and he is open to signing an extension with the Mets. He is one of those new guys in that clubhouse. Now, he said he'll consider it, but for him to wait for a minute is probably smart. You got to figure out what's going on in there. You got to be around and you see if you like it. He also went over with Tobias Myers, another solid pickup, I think, for the Mets, and I think he's going to add some value there. He's a 2-time All-Star. Now, the Mets now have a front-end starter. It'd be interesting to see if they do one more move to go get another guy who is available. There's a couple guys that would fit there well, but if you remember, he went 17-6 with a 2.7 last year. Was up there for the Cy Young. Obviously, he was going against the Paul Skeens, which you're not going to win that one, but was very good for the best record in the league. So big pickup for them. And if they're able to pull off an extension for him, I mean, dang. dang. All right, speaking of trades, Mackenzie Gore, gone. He's one of the guys from the Juan Soto trade that's finally moving on in a 5-for-1 trade with the Rangers. The Rangers appear out of nowhere. They now have Mackenzie Gore and Brandon Nimmo. And he, as you remember, he made the All-Star team last year. He was leading the league in strikeouts for a really long time. I was really high on him early in the year. But then he kind of scuffled a little bit. He's never thrown up as many innings as he did. He ended the year with 159 2/3 innings, so it's quite a stretch for him to stay healthy all year. I think ending with a 4.17 and he was 5-15 record, but we're not going to hold that against them. They were really bad for a while there. So, but he ended with 185 strikeouts. So the dominance is there. He made 30 starts. He maintained his health, and now it's going to be about finishing strong. But I think that's a big pickup for the Rangers. I think adding another quality arm to Jacob deGrom, and Evaldi. Yeah. So I like it. I like it. Now we'll see if the Nationals are just kind of going for get as many prospects as possible, throw them against the wall, see who sticks. That could be what we were seeing, but we'll have to wait and see there. But I like it. I like that they went for it. I like that Mackenzie Gore. I like that both teams are doing something. That's what I like to see. So we'll see how it works out moving through this year, and we'll check back in and see how we're feeling about this trade. First rumor we have: Framber Valdez still not signed. He probably one of the, if not the top starting pitching guy out there outside of Cease going into this offseason. And not only has he not signed, but there's no real sign that anyone's that interested. And according to Yahoo Sports' Jake Mintz, the consensus around baseball is that the situation with Framber Valdez apparently intentionally crossed up his rookie catcher, which we covered here on this channel, is having a pretty adverse effect on his market. He is the top available free agent, does not appear to be close to signing a contract. So I sometimes, I'll be honest, in my opinion, it was pretty clear he did it on purpose. That is a huge no-no, especially with your catcher who's supposed to be your partner in crime here. But it's also like a kind of I don't want to say a one-off incident per se, because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but kind of came out of nowhere, I think publicly. And it's not like he has a history of blowing up in that way. So, sometimes when a single event happens, you can just take full responsibility. Be like, that was crazy. I don't know why I did that. That was crazy. I got to work on this. And you're able to move on. But, maybe there's something they know we don't know, right? It seems like it's not a one-off incident. I don't know. I'm not speculating here. I have no idea if there's anything else. But it is a little bit odd that we're not willing to at least give him a chance. So I wouldn't be surprised if the market opens up a little bit if the dollar amount and the number of years comes way down real quickly. So we might be about to see a bridge deal for Framber Valdez, but I will say, just from a pitching standpoint, I mean, there's not a lot of guys who've been as solid as him for as long as he has, and any team could use that. So we'll have to wait and see, I guess. Max Scherzer has made it clear that he is open to signing after opening day this year. He's willing to wait. And if he waits, that's really, really interesting. Now, if you remember, Roger Clemens did this too when he was 44 years old, signing with the Yankees in May and getting paid over $1 million per start. And by all accounts, he only had to be there on the day he was starting, which was a pretty good gig. But Max he's a smart guy. He knows he's in his 40s. He knows he has diminished stuff. He knows what his value is. And he knows that there's going to come a team. There's going to be injuries in spring training. Yes, he might not get a job right out of spring training, but he might be able to get called to come help a team as quickly as possible. And that might be the best way for him to get an opportunity. And I agree with him. I agree with him wholeheartedly. I think that's really smart. And if that opportunity doesn't present itself, then opportunity doesn't present itself. But he's a Hall of Famer regardless. So it's a smart move. This is something we haven't seen in a while. But that's what savvy guys do. They do smart moves. So I think that's all in a phone interview. So, and Will Salmon, that he revealed it to him straight up. He's like, I'm open to waiting. So he's 41 years old. We'll see what happens with Max. All right, a couple more quick things. I want to hit some questions here in a second too, because we have a couple in the chat that I'm going to hit on. Lucas Giolito is being connected to possibly the Tigers. I like that. I like that matchup. That seems really interesting. There are reportedly many teams actually in on him, including the Detroit Tigers, as reported by John Heyman. The Detroit Free Press's Evan Petzold also reported the Tigers are interested in Giolito as well. So that's two. And usually when it's two, it's true. I didn't think that was going to come out so easily. But he missed the entire 24 season with Tommy John. Bounced back last season. He had 3-4 and 145 innings for the Red Sox. So he was a really quality pitcher to help that team turn it around a little bit and get in the playoffs. So he's a solid pitcher. He is no stranger to the AL Central. I think that would be a good lockup for the Tigers to add a little bit more depth around perennial Cy Young winner Tarik Skubal and maybe make a run at this thing while you have him for one more year. I don't know. I just work here. Maybe you should do that. And finally, Zach Gallen. We have some movement. We have 3 teams that are interested, also being reported by John Heyman. The Orioles, the Cubs, and the Diamondbacks. I'm going to say it here. You're going to hear it first. You're going to hear it here first. I think the Orioles end up with Zach Gallen. I think they need a starting pitcher. They still haven't gotten one. They need him. They need one. So I want to see him in an Orioles uniform. I think that'd be a solid bounce back place to go. And I think that young crew could benefit from having a veteran like this guy on their team. If you remember, just 2 years ago, he finished 3rd for the NL Cy Young, and he has been a very quality starter outside of some regression last year. But, there might have been injuries involved. Some things looked off to me that tells me that he needed some space to do some work on some things, and that might have been physical. So I'm going to wait to see what we see out of him in the first month or so in the season, see if it's still there. But I still think he is worth at least getting a couple-year deal with this solid contending team. But my guess is the Orioles. I'll rank them for you. Why not? Orioles, Diamondbacks, Cubs in that order. That's what I think is most likely. So Zach Gallen, back on the market. We're finally talking about him. It's been a while. All right, cool. We got a couple questions here that I have time to get into right before we take off. One was from the Twitch channel from Mr. Igoza. Who do you think is worse for baseball, the Dodgers or teams like the Pirates? I don't think teams are bad for. I will say they're bad in different ways, and I think they're equal. I know that's a cop-out answer, but I think if you are the Pirates, you need to put forth effort to win in the ways you can win. So like the Pirates and the Rays have, let's say, roughly the same amount of money to work with, but somehow the Rays get it done through being creative and the Pirates don't, okay? Pirates are also very rigid with who's in charge and what they do. They just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and they keep putting out a subpar product, even if they have these superstars in the making be able to join the team. That, for me, feels like a dereliction of duty to the fans, okay? So that bothers me. So if it comes down to it, I know we're all, Dodgers fans, right? They get everything they want. But also just zoom out a little bit and be like, but wouldn't it be nice to like look at your organization and be like, they're giving us what we want. At least they have that. There should be a little bit like jealousy. You should be jealous of that. It's okay to be jealous of that. Everyone is. Right? So maybe I'll give it just a smidge higher than the Pirates. I'm not saying the Pirates can spend $400 million. They can't. They cannot. It's just they don't have the money to do it. And they don't really have the money to compete with the Dodgers really either. So like, we're not going to say that either. But they could try harder to use the resources they have to figure it out. Like, get creative, and they don't. They just kind of, the lack of any sort of changes ever shows me that they don't really care. And if it comes across that they don't care, that's probably a little bit worse for baseball. Though I caveat, spending forever into space also isn't great because it's making a lot of other things harder to do for other teams. And now the players are going to have to probably fight tooth and nail to not have the entire system to be just bulldozed and built in the way that the owners want. Again, it's going to be a big fight, and the Dodgers have a lot to do with that. So that's me answering that question as honestly as possible. Hamilton, the Babe reporter. Cool. Do pitchers like being known as innings eaters? Yes. Short answer is yes. They do. Though, okay, let's put it this way. Nobody likes to be a guy not known for not being able to throw very many innings. Everyone hates that label. So the opposite of it obviously is a good thing. Now, there's some guys who are like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I'm good throwing 160 innings. I don't necessarily need to be an innings eater. But the whole minor league career was like, I need to throw as many innings as I can. One year he went 19-0 in the minors, and he led the league in innings by like 30. And that was his goal. His goal was, it doesn't matter how many runs I give up. It doesn't, like, as long as we have more runs than them, and I can throw as many innings as possible so that other people don't have to. So yes, innings eating is a badge of honor, though it might not be the badge of honor that it used to be for as many guys, because they're more worried about how effective their innings are because that's just what the teams want more. There's just more of that. So it has shifted maybe to where it's not as necessary, but yes, it's still something that guys, like, they perk up if you call them that, for sure. For sure. So that is this week's episode of Mayday on Foul Territory. We do this show every Wednesday and Friday at noon Pacific time, or in the case of this year, at noon 12, because, I don't know, a mouse bit through one of my cables. So I just want to say thank you for being here. I would like to thank David Korn for producing the show and helping me write it, along with Henry Neiman. I would like to also thank editors David Foley, Aaron Dieman, and Emmy Sharbaugh for the podcast and all the videos that we come out with every single week. You can subscribe to more Mayday if you get these videos. If you ever miss the show, you can go watch them over there. And as always, don't forget to slow down, to have some water, and then enjoy some baseball. We're 2 weeks away from report day, guys. It's going to be such a good year in 2026. We've got a lot of fun stuff happening. And if you would like to come back and watch some more Mayday on Friday, you can do so over at Trevor May Baseball on YouTube, or I am Trevor May on Twitch, whichever one, whatever floats your boat. And we're going to have a lot of good time talking about a lot of fun stuff. It is what we do here. We have a good time, and I can't wait to see you there. So I hope you all have a great one, and I'll see you next time on Mayday. Have a good rest of your week. See you Friday. Bye.